Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Casey Durango, and this is Go Keto with Casey. And I don't know whether anyone is going to show up because this is not my normal time of doing my Monday morning live chat. Bear with me a moment to make sure that I have made this thing public. Sometimes I forget to do that. Pam is here. Hi, Pam. I guess it's public. Hi. I am so happy to be back with you. Good morning. Good morning. Let me close off some other windows that I have open so I don't confuse my own self, which happens. For those of you who don't know, I've been away for just a little bit, so I wanted to give you a recap of my adventures in the Pacific Northwest. Yesterday morning, after coming in on the red eye, lovely mate and I returned home after a wonderful trip first to Seattle and then a cruise to Alaska. And I know some of my friends who might even be here this morning are in Alaska. What a wonderful experience, I have to tell you, in many, many ways. And if you can bear with me for just a moment, I will just tell you on a personal level, if I haven't already told you. My husband and I have been married for 36 years. This was our first vacation, just the two of us. We have gone to the mountains before. We've gone to the beach before, with the kids or, different things like that. But just the two of us traveling somewhere, we are convinced we can do the amazing race. Because we were essentially joined at the hip for days. And we're still married. It's fantastic. We got along beautifully. And this was a particular cruise. This was a low-carb cruise, which is a little bit misleading. It's not like the cruise provided low-carb food. So that's my topic for today. I thought this was a clever title. Keto Cruise Control. Yes. First, let's jump to the chase. I am still in ketosis. I took my testing stuff and didn't test all the time because I was having too much fun partying, I got to tell you. There was dancing involved. And there might have been some alcohol as well. But I tested, I never went out of ketosis. We ate a lot of food. But the food on the cruise, which is everywhere, was not geared towards low carb. Even the formal seating, when we were all, kind of grouped together in groups of about 8 or 10 for the formal dining every evening, they had their beautiful menu. None of it was low carb. It was normal. So how do you do that? You do the same thing you do every time you go out to dinner or go to a friend's house or prepare a holiday meal. You make good choices. So that's what we did. I did eat a lot of food. Guess what I did not do? I did not only eat when I was hungry. So I put on 3 pounds. I am totally fine with that. Actually, I'm surprised it wasn't more. We had a blast, guys. A blast. Some of it was kind of schlocky, but that's what you expect, right? On a cruise. Oh, man. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk about some low-carb stuff. Before we even got on board. Now, there were 3,500 people on this ship. About 350 were part of the low-carb cruise group. So, we were one out of every 10. So we're in the terminal waiting to embark. And who was standing in line in front of my husband and I? And we had gotten kind of ahead. We just, through good luck, we were near the front of the line to embark. Guess who was standing in front of us? Dr. Stephen Finney. Does anyone here know who Dr. Stephen Finney is? He is absolutely amazing in his knowledge of this protocol. He's been studying it intensely for 42 years. And I could not believe that, I was standing there and my husband and I were kind of waiting and you're shuffled through things. And I said, oh my God, look what that is. Stephen Finney. And his wife, who is a brilliant professor as well. It was really interesting. As much as I was wanting to talk to him, he was wanting to brag about his wife, who is a professor at UC Davis, I believe. And we talked for 45 minutes. And guess what? If you think all I want to do is drink wine and talk about the ketogenic diet, you've never met Dr. Stephen Finney. Man, it's amazing. And we were at breakfast the next morning in the Windjammer. And guess who walks by and says, may we join you for breakfast? Dr. Stephen Finney and his wife. So we had another 45 minutes, hour, just hanging with Stephen Finney, talking about our families, talking about the ketogenic diet, talking about our coffee farm in Colombia. He was asking us questions. We were asking him questions, exchanged pictures of our kids. It was a delight. So anyway, that was pretty fun. You will have to excuse me. I did try to get a little bit of a cold traveling, not taking anything for it because it's hard to find any medications that are not full of sugar. So excuse me, my voice is a little raspy and I have a little runny nose. All right, so I did ask questions and there's a lot to share and I'm not gonna be able to do it all in one seating here. Hey, Karen, how you doing there, sister girl? I understand there was an eruption. There was a volcano eruption in Alaska. Someone just texted me about it. Okay, I'm gonna share a little bit about the cruise, like just the cruise itself, and then I'm gonna talk to you about some of the things that we learned because there were talks and seminars, etc. Very interesting. We did not attend all of them. Some of the topics were ones we were not as interested in as others, and we were having a really fun time. You know, going into some of the towns and walking around and just getting in the hot tub, etc. But there's some really good information out there. Hi from Quebec, big rain. Dr. Finney, loved your photo of you too. I tell you what, yeah, thank you very much. I posted it on Instagram and I think maybe on my Go Keto with Casey Facebook page. I'm going to say something. I did not take a lot of photographs. I did not take notes. I did not do, except for my patrons, I think I posted 1 2.5 minute little video, one of the first mornings for patrons. Just saying, hey, we're on the boat. It's cold, but this is beautiful. And I'll tell you why. I didn't write. I didn't do too much. I made the conscious decision to unplug, to experience the experience with my lovely mate, to absorb as much as I could of the scenery and the newness of the experience. Never been on a cruise ship. Have never flown with my husband other than one quick trip 32 years ago up and back to Boston. Have never done most of the things we did. So I just decided to do that. Next conference I go to will be a work conference, and there will be copious notes and videos and writing, etc. So there's that. So only the couple of photographs I took were the one with Stephen Finney and then a couple of the glacier, which was stunning, that we saw. Okay, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry I'm not responding. Brenda, I can't see or hear anything. Sorry, I don't know. Can everyone else hear and see? Yeah, Tony, I stayed in the moment. Really made that decision. Hey, vintage girls. Made that decision to truly unplug. And man, wow, you do lose track of time. It was great. Now, back to keto. Through all the lectures and conversations, listen, we were lucky enough to be seated, my husband and I, every night at dinner with Dr. Eric Westman and Jackie Eberstein and her fantastic husband, Conrad, and a couple of other couples. Wow, what an honor. And they are happy to answer questions. So I did ask a couple of questions because I've been asked by supporters to please do that. Asked about hair loss on the ketogenic diet. Jackie Epperstein and Dr. Westman immediately both began shaking their heads. No, there is no connection between the ketogenic diet and hair loss. Dr. Westman quickly pulled up his phone, passed it over to me, and said, study telogen effluvium, which can happen. It can be, and there's a whole long explanation for it that you can read. Telogen, T-E-L-O-G-E-N, effluvium. Sorry about that, and you can see the cuckoo clock's a little bit off. Effluvium, E-F-F-L-U-V-I-U-M. It can happen when any dietary change happens, or any kind of trauma, even an emotional trauma. It is temporary. So not to worry. There is no connection between that. Another question came up. Does it make sense, or can it be beneficial to jumpstart weight loss by increasing caloric intake on a regular basis? Eat not when hungry, but just eat more food. Nope. No scientific evidence, no reason to believe that would work. They just said no. And Jackie Eberstein has been doing this since 1972. She was Dr. Robert Atkins' nurse, but actually worked with him, saw patients, worked very closely with patients, been studying it the whole time. And although she thinks she's retired, she's still studying. And Dr. Westman said, no, there's nothing based in science or research that would do that, nor, sorry to say, not sorry for me, but many people want to know, carb cycling, cheat meals, cheat days, carbing up. It makes no sense. This is coming from the world experts. No sense to do that, okay? So if that message can be got, that would be good. No, eating more will not make you lose more. That it doesn't work that way. If you're hungry, eat. Just make sure you're eating fatty sources of protein. And guess what topic? Guess what? In all the lectures, listening to Stephen Finney, and he had, we paid for a Q&A session with him. Excuse me, I need to get my notes. Guess what he never brought up or endorsed or said was a great thing to do? Adding MCT oil to get in your fats or rev up anything. No. When he's been asked, he was not asked at this one, but I've seen him asked at another lecture, when asked about MCT oil, he said, there are many people who are entitled to and like to make a profit. And he kind of left it at that. Other than for therapeutic uses, keep in mind, there's studying going on now for therapeutic ketosis as opposed to nutritional or dietary ketosis. Nutritional ketosis is kind of what most of us in this group probably are wanting to do. We want to feel good. We want to burn body fat. We want to reduce inflammation. We want to get our brain function back. So that's nutritional ketosis. You're burning ketones for fuel, which means you're burning fat for fuel. If you're taking in MCT oil, it might give you a boost of energy, but it can interfere with burning body fat. If you have body fat to lose, which I do, I don't know when I'll get to the point where I don't have body fat to lose, but I do. If you're drinking the fat, you don't have to access the fat storage. Therapeutic ketosis is something that there's a lot of research going on. This is for people with neurological disorders, cancers, severe autoimmune situations. Okay, so keep that in mind. So the studies you might hear about using MCT oil or exogenous ketones. Exogenous means you're taking them from the outside of your body. Endogenous means inside the body. This is for, think of it as medicinal purposes. But most of us don't need that, okay? So there's that, okay? Y'all do what you want to do. I'm not taking on MCT oil until I become an elite bodybuilder, right? And I have 2% body fat. That's not on my bucket list. So I don't think I'll be taking MCT oil. Okay. So now we're going to turn to our lovely people who have bothered to show up. I meant to say at the beginning of the video, if you do not enjoy live broadcasts, you might want to move on to the next one. Hey, Ruth, it's, you say, great to see me back. Sometimes when you get to the end of a long vacation, you're like, man, I'll be glad to get home. I won't lie. I hated to leave that ship. I had so much fun. A lot of dancing. I danced a lot with Dr. Westman. He loves to dance. We had a good time, man. We had a really good time. Hey, Marion. Good morning. Checking in from Louisiana. Hey, Shiket Echad. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I made a live chat for once. Jumps up and down. Counts as exercise, right? That's funny. Thank you. Let me tell you what I did. It was a thrill to meet Dr. Stephen Finney. It was a treat to eat dinner every night with Jackie Epperstein. I'm a little bit in love with her husband, Conrad. What interesting people, what interesting lives they've led. But I'm going to tell you, a couple of thrills I really had were meeting people that I've only seen here online. Either through my blog, Facebook, or YouTube. It was really a thrill to be able to hug the neck of people that I've only gotten to talk to or communicate with or exchange. What a treat, a real treat. And, I've often thought if I hit the lottery, what I'd like to do is just go to all the cities and meet people that I've met virtually. It's really a delight. British Columbia, Victoria, British Columbia. I know I have a couple of people, I don't know if you're online this morning, that comment and contribute comments from Victoria, British Columbia. That was one of the ports of call. And for those of you who live in Victoria, y'all are so blessed. What a beautiful city. Lovely mate and I walked. We did not do any paid excursions. We walked everywhere. We just got off the ship and we walked through Juneau, Skagway. Now, my husband walked through Skagway. Frankly, I'd gotten about 2 hours of sleep the night before. Lots of dancing, like I said. And so he walked through Skagway, and he really liked that. But we walked all through British Victoria. Beautiful city. Wow. Wow. Good morning, Tia from Arizona. That's fantastic. Starting my 7th week, I'm so happy I found you. Very encouraging. I weigh in Friday to see how much I lost. And you've lost 23 pounds in 4 weeks. That's Katie Durbin. Congratulations. Fantastic. Kristen Clark asks, any chance to keep the live chats a bit later? 8 a.m. Pacific time is so much easier to wake up for. I might do that. Let's try to do that. Let's somebody else come in and say this was 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time here on the East Coast. So let me know about that. Where can we read Jackie Epperstein's story? I'm from Ontario, Canada. You can Google Jackie Epperstein. She's written a book. And you won't find online anything about these stories, I don't think. I mean, you can read about her experience with Robert Atkins. She's still a consultant with Atkins Institute, not the Atkins Food Company. That was sold after Dr. Atkins passed. And let me tell you how close she is. After he passed, she was the one that went through his files and his papers and everything to make sure everything was properly handled and categorized and everything. So she was very, very tight with him. But Dr. Atkins' widow, Veronica, continues on with the good work. And Jackie is still part of that. But let me tell you what, if you want to know, sit with them at dinner a few nights. Oh, gosh. Travels, just random experiences that have nothing to do with the low carb thing. It's just they're fascinating people. And that was we didn't know what to expect going on a cruise. Met some wonderful people that I really hope to see again. No, Karen, you must be having a conversation with somebody. When I retire at the end of July, anytime will work. Okay, you must be talking to somebody. Marcy, oh, okay, so this is your first live chat because of time. So pushing it later may be good. So, excuse me. I'm running nose. I'm just so glad I did not get really sick. It just was some sinus stuff. Now, let me talk about some of the other lectures. It was so interesting. There was a speaker who talked about the gut biome, the good bacteria. I mean, you've heard a lot about that. It's even on commercials now where, you know, yogurts and certain things. She explained, she's a PA with Dr. Jeffrey Gerber in Denver's diet doctor. And so she works with a lot of the gut stuff. That's kind of her thing. And she was saying that our modern diet, our modern food as recommended, I'm sorry, I don't have a good train of thought here. She had a really great analogy. She said, if you think of our guts, they can be like the tropical rainforest where there are such diversity of flora and fauna and everything kind of works in harmony, but there's tons and tons and tons. You know, you walk 100 yards in a tropical rainforest and you're going to see, or you'll be exposed to, or be in the presence of hundreds of thousands of different types of bugs and birds and plants and so, and they all work in symbiosis. If you walk into a desert, there might be a tumbleweed. So she said we should be like the rainforest in our gut, but we're kind of turning into the desert. We are eliminating good bacteria. You know, people want to kill all the bacteria. Antibiotics that are omnipresent. I'm going to sneeze, I think. Is she? Is she going to sneeze? It passed. Okay. So how do you get the good bacteria back in? She said, one thing, quit being so afraid of bacteria. You don't have to do anything dramatic, but fermented foods are quite good. So this can be anything as simple as pickles, kimchi, which is very good, which is essentially like very spicy Korean coleslaw. But the fermentation process helps bring things into balance. Again, I did not take notes, but I'm sure I'll be hearing her again as I continue to go to conferences, which thank you very much. Through your support, my husband and I had long discussions about it, and we think this is what I'll be doing, as long as it makes sense for us to do. So, diversity of food, but carbohydrates, and she explained the physiological mechanism why when we're not keto adapted, when we're burning glucose for fuel, when we're eating carbs, how this actually suppresses the good bacteria. And the level, you need good bacteria, you need bad bacteria, you need the little enemies, just like you need omega-6s and omega-3s. You need some inflammatory omega-6s. You need some anti-inflammatory omega-3s. You need them to be in balance. Just like that, you need some bacteria that are going to eat this way and some that are going to eat this way. We're just too heavy in the carbs in our diet. So again, I'm not being very scholarly in this, but just keep in mind that pretty much the theme across this was for all kinds of medical reasons that have nothing to do with weight loss. A well-formulated ketogenic diet is the way to go. There's essentially no downside to it. Very interesting lecture from Dr. Ann Chilvers, who's a psychiatrist. She treats children, adolescents, and adults. And she was talking about the impact of nutrition on mental disease, I don't want to call it disorders because, you know, it sounds, but not just mood swings, but people who are misdiagnosed with bipolar, people who have had symptoms of schizophrenia, that are mitigated when you get the carbs out of the diet. And again, she explained the science behind it. And it's not just the insulin spiking a sugar rush and then a crash. It's more complex than that. I'm hoping she'll be speaking at the next conference I'm planning on going to in August. because I will be taking notes and, if I'm allowed, taking some video or voice recordings. Again, bottom line, no downside, lots of upsides. The other thing I want to talk to on the cruise, there were people who were there who were struggling. Now, some may have already lost 100 pounds, but had lots to go. Some were close to victory, and they were very enthusiastic. And some were struggling. You could see as the food they're eating were struggling. Let me tell you what, if you're a food addict, or for that matter, a gambling addict or an alcoholic, this was a rough place to be, because there's gambling, carbohydrate food, and alcohol everywhere. And I think we all need to remind ourselves that this is not a straight line for anything. As you know, I've been a slow loser. But I just felt so much better almost immediately. And I had already resigned myself to being a heavy person, that the rate of weight loss was not an issue for me. Yeah, if I could recommend for anybody, I'm trying to put my thoughts together, who's struggling, I would say try to stop focusing on weight loss. There are so many benefits to this way of eating that my husband and I heard about in the lectures that really have nothing to do with weight. Physiological improvements that have nothing to do with weight. Many of the researchers and medical doctors and clinicians who were there have not had any weight issues. They believe in this nutrition protocol because of what they see, the science they know, okay? The weight loss can come. If you're stalled on weight loss, don't load up on MCT oil. Don't drink your fats. If it works for you, great. If it stops working, if you're saying, well, I stopped losing weight, let that be one of the first things you look to. Make sure you're in ketosis. Oh, FYI, keto sticks are totally fine. Totally fine. Totally fine. They can, in some people, give a false negative reading if you've been in ketosis for quite some time. But that doesn't always happen. I've been in ketosis for over 3 years, and I checked with the keto sticks as well as blood on the trip. I still show in ketosis. So and the strips are expensive. One of the first things Dr. Finney said when we were talking about testing, he said, man, the strips are expensive, the blood ones. And then he talked about they're cheaper in different places in the world, like Australia. Excuse me. I beg your pardon. Check to make sure you're still in ketosis. If you're in ketosis and not losing weight, make sure you're not overeating or drinking dietary fat. MCT oil can't be stored, it must be burned. So if you're in ketosis and you've really stalled out losing weight, make sure you're not overeating MCT oil or fat bombs. And then beyond that, just make sure you're not overeating food. That you're not eating food when you don't need it. Do not fear, eating one meal a day. I am not a fan or proponent of arbitrarily not eating. Nor are some other people. Doctors Finney and Volek, particularly. I mean, Finney and Westman that I know of. I have not heard Dr. Volek speak about it. He was not on the cruise. Eat when you're hungry. Don't eat if you're not hungry. Don't arbitrarily not eat. From my understanding, feeding windows have very little to do with fixing your metabolism. So there's that. Now, I did see, I think Margie, you came and asked about hair loss. And I did speak about that earlier. Margie, hair loss has nothing to do with a ketogenic diet. It can happen when any nutritional change or other trauma, physical or emotional, it's called telogen effluvium, and it will correct. And we lose hair in different places all throughout our lives, and it rotates. And sometimes it just happens so it'll lose here, and then 3 months later, it'll lose here. I got the crazy hair again this morning. And here and here. And sometimes we have it in several places going at the same time, just like, the planets line up. And sometimes, think of it as a total eclipse of your head when all the little patches come together. Okay, Keto Crazy Maryland. Hey, Casey, new to chat from Maryland, 14 pounds in 4 weeks, I guess. 6 more to go. That's fantastic. Manuelera writes, I'm a huge emotional eater. If I'm in a bad place, I immediately think of food. One of the awesome things about keto is that it's easy to recognize true hunger, and I can do 20 or 4-hour intermittent fasting. It's amazing. I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting, Manuel. If it works for you, great. And if it helps you keep from eating emotionally, then that's great. Do what works for you. And there's another thing. None of these world experts, none of them, would pin down what anybody else needs to do. There are too many variables. Asked many times, how much protein should you get? Don't know. There's a range, but it's a big range. And it's based on lean body mass. And it depends on, are you a 6'2" man? Are you a 5'0" woman? Are you a 20-something, 30-something, 50-something postmenopausal? Are you a bodybuilder? Are you an endurance athlete? If you can keep it simple, please, another second recommendation, throw away the macros. Keep your carb below 20 grams, not percent, 20 grams. Eat fatty sources of protein and eat to satiety, which is the way Dr. Finney puts it. And then stop eating. They'll all fall into place. Keep in mind the macros were a result of research, not a goal. They did not say, what happens if we do this? They put people in a metabolic ward, control their eating, let them eat to satiety. And they had different types of food out. They found out the people who did the best, they ending up eating what ended up being the macros. Don't worry about it. Don't stress over the math. Don't stress over the macros. Keep your grams of carbohydrate 20 or lower. Some people can do higher, okay? That doesn't mean do net carbs, because that is a slippery slope. Some people can take more total grams of carb, but 20 grams should work for everybody, so you find a baseline. Particularly if you're first starting to figure out. Keep it 20 or below. Find your baseline, get things going, get a nice little rhythm going. And then if you want to start tweaking, tweak, but tweak one thing at a time. Okay? And if you can find you can tolerate fewer, a bit more carbs, and you stay in ketosis and your weight loss is doing well and you're feeling good, great. You might find that as you get older, when you could eat 45 grams of carb a day, now you're at a point where you really need to eat fewer. So keep it in mind. But Dr. Finney would not tell anybody how much he should weigh, or she should weigh, how many calories they should eat, and how much protein they should eat. He said there's too many variables. He said the only way he would do it would be if someone wanted to know what he did, and he would only tell them, that person, if they were his twin or his clone. There you go. World expert. Sonia BB, 57 years old, 320 pounds, struggling to lose even with 20 to 25. Sonia, are you sure that you're counting total grams of carb? Someone, this comes up a lot. Someone messaged me and said on the non-starchy vegetables, those don't count towards the carbs, right? Those are the carbs, okay? Anything you put in your mouth, even from the non-starchy vegetables, And the fatty, protein, anything you put in your mouth counts towards those carbs. So make sure that you're keeping your carbs below 20. Sonia, are you adding dietary fat? Are you doing the bulletproof coffee, the fat bombs? Are you really trying to get your fat in? That's not a thing. That should not be a thing on this diet. You don't get fat in. If MyFitnessPal or any other calculator is driving you nuts because it's, you're freaking out that you're not getting your fat in, ignore it. Don't let an app tell you what to do. You don't get fat in. You just eat to satiety, and it'll work itself out. Sonia, again, I'm going to ask, are you adding dietary fat? Are you only eating when hungry? And is it total carbs, not net? Marlene Wolfberg, been on keto 4 months, reached goal, but cholesterol and triglycerides are up. Is it safe for me to stay on this diet? 4 months, yeah, probably they would go up. Let me tell you why. As I understand it from Dr. Finney. So there's cholesterol in every single cell of our bodies, and it's needed. In the first several months of doing this, as you start to burn ketones for fuel, fat cells have triglycerides in them. Triglyceride is fat, and those are mobilized and released. So your serum cholesterol and triglycerides can go up. That will regulate. You keep it up. 4 months is nothing, sister. Nothing. You keep it up. Check again in 6 months. And you're almost certain to see those numbers go down. Ever heard of egg fast to break stalls? TR LaFrance asks, ever heard of egg fast? I've heard of it, or better known as a fat. It's just something to eat, making sure, because eggs are a really good combination of fat and protein. But is a stall really a stall? Have you not lost any inches? Dr. Westman counts a stall as no inches, and no pounds lost for 4 weeks. Otherwise, just kind of keep on hanging in there. But yeah, if you want to eat eggs all day, there's no harm in that. You will not hurt yourself. Casey, do you have some cruising tips reading? Well, yeah, it's kind of the topic of this. I guess maybe I haven't talked about it so much. You make good choices. So you go into the eating places, and even at the seated dinners, every night they would come to offer us big baskets of bread, and we'd say no thank you. But when you're going if you're in the buffet line, you pass by all the delicious looking, well, actually they don't look that delicious to me anymore, muffins and bagels and breads and pancakes and sandwiches and pastas, and you just go and pick up the prime rib they're slicing, and the baked chicken, and the cheese platters that they've got, some salads that they've got, certainly, but you can find big things of sliced cucumber and tomato, roasted peppers, asparagus, mussels, man, it was good, shrimp, seafood. It was really good. You eat all the food that you want. Well, you don't have to eat all the food that you want. I mean, you don't have to make a pig of yourself. You simply avoid the carbs. You avoid the pastas and the rices and the breads and the oatmeal. But there were many. We did not miss a meal. My husband was totally thrilled. And at the seated dinners, we just made good choices. Every night there was steak available on the menu. And then we had escargot. We just made sure there was no breading in it. It was in a garlic butter sauce. It was so good. So that's the tip. The tip is, on a cruise, you do the same thing when you go to Denny's or to any other restaurant. You make good choices. They don't do substitutions at the seated dinners. It's not practical with the number of meals that they're preparing. So just avoid the food that's on the plate that you don't want to eat. Shelley Smith writes, Casey will be on a cruise in October, but this is my first cruise where I'm keto. Did the ship have real butter and heavy whipping cream, or should I bring my own on board? They did have butter, no heavy cream, but they had half and half. I'm sorry, actually, person coordinating it did give the feedback. And so my husband and I, when we were in Juneau, we went to a little shop and bought heavy whipping cream, kept it in our stateroom and used it. It was great. You can ask for real butter. They will bring it melted if you want. We found it at the lunch and dinners just available, and it was real butter. We checked in little packs. All right, now I'm going to start winding down on this. I do have to, re-entry is so sad. Things we have to do. Okay, so Tammy Smith at dinner, the waitress will take our order for the following morning as well as our next night meal. That was not our experience. Those different cruise lines may have different practices. I think some of the smaller lines where their boats are smaller and there are fewer guests, maybe they can do that. The boat we're on, it's not even the biggest boat. There were 3,500 guests and they served 12,000 meals a day. So they had to have that down to an assembly line. Keto Crazy Maryland coffee mugs available. You know what? They are, they actually should have arrived while we were gone, but we stopped our mail and they go to the post office box, which we also stopped, and it's moved to closed today. So I will be getting those. I think I'm getting smaller mugs. These are 15 ounces, getting 11 and a half ounce. And I think I've got the magnets coming in. The ones that say, are you here? Fridge mags that say, are you here out of hunger or out of habit? Thank you, Karen. I feel amazing. I felt really good. Oh, guess what I did? On the deck, they have a track. I jogged over a mile in the freezing cold and rain, and I felt awesome. Here's the difference. I've gone a mile before. I've maybe 4 or 5 times in my life. I have jogged slowly, albeit a mile or more. But this one I was just up at the track really early in the morning, and on the track, I was walking around, and I saw where it said 9 laps equals 1 mile. I could do that. That was the difference. The part, it was like, whenever I would have thought that before, seeing that, I would say, 9 laps, maybe I can do 5. Let's try 5. But this time I said, no, I can do that easily. And I did do it easily. I only stopped jogging because a woman I met I met her before, fantastic woman named Abby Ross, who's a marathoner, is a force of nature. She was up there, and I stopped to tell her, I said, you're not going to believe what I just did. Well, she had to hug my neck and then take several photographs of me in the triumphant arms up position. So it was that, that idea that, oh man, I can do that. And that being such a natural thought for me was not unlike the first time I realized, oh, well, I forgot to eat today. It's 6 p.m. and I've eaten nothing. And I wasn't trying to eat nothing. I simply forgot to eat because I was not hungry and I was not interested in food. It was like that same thing, like, wow, we've crossed a threshold here. This is odd. Someone asked about what level blood glucose should be. And I'm not sure. I think they asked what level blood glucose. If you're talking about measuring by blood, generally under about 100. Mine generally stays under 100. And sometimes I think my average is 76. This morning it was 91. This morning my ketones were 2.8 by blood. So I was really pleased. I didn't weigh myself on since we left way back on, it seems like 6 months ago, but it was the 17th. So this morning I weighed, and I was up exactly 3 pounds from the last time I'd weighed, which I was thrilled with because I broke one of my rules. I didn't just say, we went to eat, and I wouldn't say, I'm not hungry, I'm not eating. I said, hells yeah, I'm with my husband on this fantastic cruise. I walked 7 miles today. I'm digging this. So we had a lot of fun. So I'm thrilled it was only 3 pounds. But that could have been a normal fluctuation. But it also does say, kind of reinforces If you eat when you're not hungry, weight loss can slow down, stop, or go the wrong direction. So my own little science experiment. Okay, you guys, I think this is fantastic. Oh, Mark Myers, you walked your first. Hey, Mark, this is great to see you. Mark is from Western Carolina, or is it in Southwest Virginia, Mark? You walked your first 5K on Saturday. That is lovely. Congratulations. Country Living Mama, have you had surgery for your loose skin? No, I have not. Oh, another question that came up. People asked, there was a woman who asked a question because they had Q&As of the medical personnel as well as speakers as well as the non-medical. And a woman, said, I'm 61 or something, and I just want to know about loose skin and what can be done about it. Not much, okay? Jackie Eberstein, she threw out some things. There are devices. I'm not going to call them out because I don't know about those. I don't know how much medical, scientific evidence there are that actual devices you use can help with loose skin. Jackie Epperstein, after she tried to answer the question a couple of times, said, listen, if I knew the answer to what to do with loose skin after weight loss, she says, I would be in the Bahamas right now and not on this cruise. Not that she didn't love the cruise, but she'd be a millionaire. So loose skin, I have not had surgery for loose skin. I do have crepey skin on my tummy, and I have a very mismatched set up here, which I've shared before, but this is because I have, after a mastectomy and reconstruction, which was done when I was much heavier, when I was 97.4 pounds heavier. This doesn't lose weight, obviously. This one did, so I have to kind of deal with this one. And I may have a revision on this, and I may at the same time have my tummy addressed, but I may not. If my skin appears good, it is most likely from genetics, but it might be from the ketogenic diet, and it might be the very slow weight loss. There is a theory by a esthetician that works at Duke that the anti-inflammatory properties of the ketogenic diet may have something to do with it, skin being our largest organ. I know that that was a really long answer. The question was, have I had surgery? No, I could have cleared that up in 1/2 of a second. Yeah, Pamela, at pushing 70, I'll take the loose skin over the weight. I understand that people say, well, I don't know, what if I'm going to have loose skin? I'll take it. I'll take the loose skin. In exchange for the fat, the inflammation, the brain fog, the depression, the mood swings, the aching joints. Yeah, I'll take the loose skin. Spanx, or maybe double Spanx. Okay, Country Living Mama, today's my second day of keto, my third to trying keto. I'm literally just following your lead this time, hoping I can stick with it. Country Living Mama, stick with it, sister. And I'm going to say, this is not my lead. I just listen to the people who really know what they're talking about, and they know what they're talking about because they have been doing actual research and clinical trials for Dr. Finney for 42 years. Dr. Westman, I think it's going on 18 years. And he was a classically trained physician. He was skeptical. Keep it simple. Keep your grams of carbohydrate 20 or lower. And I'm sorry, the woman, I don't recall the name, who said it's not working for her. Drive it down. Try 0 carb. You don't need carbs. Carbs are not an essential macronutrient. They're not an essential nutrient. You don't need carbs. Okay? So just eat meat and cheese and eggs and bacon and poultry with the skin. Do 0 carbs. See if it works. There was a woman there lecturing. She doesn't like the phrase 0 carb. She likes just being called a carnivore. Keep it simple. 20 grams or fewer a day of carbohydrate. Eat fatty sources of protein and eat only when you're hungry. Stop when you're satisfied. Okay. Tracy, my darling, 6 months on keto as of yesterday, down 59.8 pounds. Brava, brava. Tracy, you are an inspiration, girl. You are an inspiration. Okay, 2 weeks on keto, then started craving sugar. Reason why? Pam, I don't know. Now, excuse me. It could be that you were in kind of this uncanny valley, that you've reduced your carbs, and maybe you're in ketosis. Maybe you don't say whether you are or not, but maybe your carbs have bumped up just enough that you can still be in ketosis, but cravings can be triggered. I actually heard that anecdotally from someone at one of the support group meetings, where this was a man who'd lost, I don't know, a lot of weight, and he really had things under control. Always in ketosis, and he just simply increased his carbs just a little bit, and he said he stayed in ketosis, but he started craving. So maybe bring your carbs back down. Keto help with hot flashes. Another interesting thing. If you remember, then when I said about the triglycerides and cholesterol being released, because the fat is mobilized, so that's the contents of the fat cells, think of it this way, are released into the blood or the serum. Same thing. Dr. Adam Nally was there, and that came up. And he said, because the cells can contain estrogen, our cells contain a lot of stuff. These fat cells have estrogen in them. They are mobilized for fuel. The estrogen is released. So you can have hot flashes come back when maybe they had subsided. I asked Dr. Jackie Eberstein about that at dinner that night. Oh, and I did say several people have mentioned, to put it delicately, that some women who have been through menopause have started having spotting and stuff. She said, to her knowledge, her recommendation would be go to a doctor. She anecdotally has not seen that. Okay, so if something's going on with you, that you have been through menopause and you've not had a period for a really long time, and you're starting to see spotting, get to a doctor, make sure everything's cool. She said maybe there is something to it, but she just hadn't seen it. You would think she would. She's seen so many patients. Okay, I'm so happy that you guys answer each other's questions. Okay, Lorraine asked, have you any idea why I would go from a hypothyroid to hyperthyroid? I've been on keto 6 months. The thyroid is very, no, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. They did talk about thyroid, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't talk to that. Okay, Tracy, Bella Knight 2010, better known as Tracy, says, thank you, Canadian Beauty. I've done the tweaks Casey speaks of, and they worked for me. Stopped adding lots of fat, lowered my total carbs to below 20. Manuel Anna writes, in my experience being in ketosis, isn't enough. Carb cravings vanish completely after you become fat adapted. It takes a couple of months before it's worth it. And Manuel, I'm going to tell you, I think that being in ketosis and being fat adapted is a distinction without a difference. Maybe I'm wrong on that. You could be in ketosis, but anyway, it's probably too late for me to go into that. Marianne F. I've been on keto 5 months and have lost 59 pounds, still have 75 to go, but loving this. I'm hoping to get below 200 by December. You can absolutely do it, Marianne. You can absolutely do it. And what a fantastic thing that is, right? The reason I eat this way is health goal and weight loss and inch loss is frosting on the cake, so to speak. It's the sour cream on top of it. I walk and move and have energy and so blessed that I take no medications. That is absolute. Thank you for saying that, Sandra. That's absolutely, in my opinion, the reason to do this. So it's a holiday. Everyone eating keto today? I haven't eaten yet. I've had my coffee. I was so happy to get back from my husband to make my coffee. I really missed it. One thing we're going to do next time we travel, we're going to take our own coffee supplies so he can make me my coffee. I will tell you, unless you got the coffee package on the cruise, the coffee wasn't that great. I will say that. They probably do that so you will buy the coffee package where you can get the lattes and everything. Country Living Mama, I'd really appreciate what you eat in a day videos. Thank you very much. What's the typical weekly weight loss? You know, mine, if I looked at my giant spreadsheet over all this time, it probably, well, I don't know. It's 97.4 pounds divided by 3 years and March, April, May. Essentially 3 years and 4 months. So however many weeks that is, it's not much. It's slow. All right, guys. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry. Terry, who lives in the same town I do. I am planning on doing something June 13th, my own personal low carb support group, or keto. I'm going to call it a keto support group because I think low carb is not quite enough. Keto support group in town at a pancake house. My husband suggested that we have a little, we have our own little cruise, and that the cruise is about how to eat out. Let's all get together. Let's go through the line. Let's go to a restaurant and figure out how to order things. And that was a good idea. Okay, and Dr. Finney reiterated about the 5 grams of sodium. I asked him about, well, what about edema and hypertension? He said edema, this was interesting. He said generally taking an added sodium will not, now he's talking about edema more than just your rings get a little bit tight. He's talking about edema, swelling of the ankles, and things that, you know, water is collecting. He said it's usually not a problem with the sodium unless you're taking an NSAID, what is it called? Like the ibuprofen, NSAIDs. Someone knows that. Anti-inflammatory steroids or something like that. Yeah, non-anti-inflammatory steroids. Those in combination can actually, so do the ones that are not NSAIDs. I thought that was very interesting. I did not know that. He also said that there is evidence that on blood measure of ketones, they now think that maybe 0.3 or higher should be considered to being in ketosis, which was great news. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Thank you very much, darling. 2 months on keto, A1C is 5.6 and down 21 pounds. Keto for life, absolutely. In both ways of thinking about keto for life. Yes. Okay, Mary P. Been on keto for 1 month and only 3 pounds lost, putting down the coffee with MCT oil as I listen to you. If you do nothing else, put down the MCT oil. It's what we call expensive urine. Can't be stored, has to be burned. And keep us posted on how that works for you. Linda writes, since being on keto from January this year, my edema has improved greatly. I take less diuretics per day, but I'm still can't cut them out. You know, if you're on diuretics, then, you know, for whatever reason, if it's blood pressure or something, you know, obviously do what your doctor says. Sandra, when you add MCT oil, it is immediately metabolized by the liver, so it is burned first before your own body fat. Testify. Okay, guys, nearly time to say ta-ta. Today's Monday. I love on the cruise ships where they put in the elevators, in the car, on the floor of the elevator and carpeting. Every night they switch out and put this plaque that says what day it is, because you literally forget what day it is. It was fantastic. I cannot wait to get on our next cruise. What a blast. Okay. My plan is this also. We'll see what happens. To do more old school videos. My patrons are getting more content now that all the stuff is behind us. There were a lot of things that were going on that I had to ramp up for, but the patrons will be getting more content, and I appreciate you hanging in there with me. I will be doing more writing on my blog. And I'm shifting into full-time, and I really appreciate the support being able to do this. Someone writes, Casey, if you have no gallbladder, Sandra, have you any experts commented if you need to take a supplement? No, this topic came up. It comes up a lot. No, there is actually, your system is perfectly capable. Your liver will produce the bile that you need, which is the gallbladder's job. You can take a bile supplement, but it is generally not necessary. There's no reason The lack of a gallbladder, the lack of a thyroid, hyperthyroid, hypothyroid. The ketogenic diet is not contraindicated for any of these. Hang in there. Celebrate today with friends, not food. Absolutely. Lisa, to cook with or put in a coffee. Someone must be asking about coconut oil. Coconut oil we do use for sauteing our lighter foods. We use lard or reserved bacon fat to cook most of our foods that are fried, or to saute. But things like shrimp, coconut, scallops, fish and seafood essentially, we use coconut oil just because it's a little bit lighter. And I do use them in my almond cookies that I make for my lovely mate. Okay, Shelly Smith, I say we all go on a keto cruise and get together every day for coffee in our Go Keto with Casey mugs. That would have been with the jackets. That'd be awesome. Yeah, brain octane. Do what you want to do. Do what works for you. I am not going to take brain octane, MCT oil, any other marketing thing. I don't need it. I want to use my body's ketones. I want to use my body's fat reserves. That's the whole point. It's the whole point. You do what you want to do. All right, guys. All right. Della, today's my 60th day on keto and I'm down 28.6 pounds. Thanks for the information on these videos. You are welcome. Thank you for tuning in. My grandfather clock just went off. Must be time to sign off. You guys have a great week. I look forward to seeing you again, virtually or otherwise. And thank you for the support. As always, keep your grams of carb below 20. Eat fatty sources of protein. Eat only when you're hungry. Lay off the MCT oil and the fat bombs. If you're stalled, if you really like them and they're working for you, do it. And don't let anybody, including me, tell you what you should be doing. Listen to your body. If you're doing what I'm doing, then you're listening to my body. Listen to your body. Okay? Thanks, guys. TTFN.